I want to thank you for being here. I suspect most of you are here because you've been very informed and active in this. We've heard tremendous amounts from around the state and information from around the country. And to put this in perspective, it's been shared a little bit, but I want to remind that this is really a bit of an exceptional committee. I really want to thank Senators Berger and Representative Speaker Tillis for creating this committee in response to so many concerns around the state. Because there are lots of different roles in government, legislators, executive branch, judicial branch, and different areas. And as you know, standards are, we look constitutionally and legislatively. We've got the State Board of Education, Department of Public Instruction, who fill a really important role throughout history of the state on those roles and standards. Very important role for local boards of education, a lot of autonomy for them. And I just mentioned that because as we move forward, we realized this was important. So we brought this up to the legislative level to begin and continue to examine it. But as we move forward, we want to make sure an effective government to look at what agencies are responsible for what so that we can be most effective. Now, as legislators and elected officials, we realize we have a responsibility, and that's why we have this. But as we move forward, let's look at who to impact, who needs to do what so that we can move forward, because education of our children is the most important thing we do in state government. Thank you. Now, Representative Holloway, do you have any words to share before we get started?
Thank you, Senator, and just to echo some of the things that you just mentioned, this is something new for the General Assembly. I know we have stated this at other meetings before. Typically, the General Assembly, we don't deal with standards or curriculums. There have been pieces of information going around that says the General Assembly was at fault, that we were the ones who put Common Core in place. That is actually not true. The General Assembly has never voted to put Common Core in place. There have been bills filed that reference Common Core, but they had to reference it because that is the standards that was chosen by the State Board of Education. And Common Core came in place, even not by our current State Board, but came about several years ago. So again, this is new territory. We are having this committee because we have heard so much public interest. We know that there is a lot of desire to take Common Core out of the state, and that's why we are here. It's good to see a good number of people who come out for public comment, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. And with that, Senator, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I know that we have had, from the very first meeting, people have said they wanted to have their voice heard, and that is a critical part of our representative Republican form of government. And so we're really happy to dedicate this entire meeting to hearing about this issue from people, from the public. We decided, and you have to choose a format, and we tried to find one that was most equitable and greatest voice for as many people as possible. And what we decided, we have two speakers who have been fighting for, against, have concerns, very educated. We're going to have them come up and speak for us 5 minutes each, and then we're going to move into the public comment. So thank you for your patience in working through the system, sign-ups and all that, and very well attended. We appreciate that. We're going to begin with Mr. Bob Luebke for 5 minutes up here. We're from North Carolina Civitas, and Mr. Luebke, please.
Got my iPhone here. I want to be respectful of time. So, good morning, everyone. Good morning to General Assembly, guests. My name is Bob Luebke. I'm a Senior Policy Analyst with the Civitas Institute, and our organization hosts a website titled Stop Common Core NC. I appreciate the committee's invitation to come and share a few thoughts.
Hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Luebke, and I probably should have started with this. I was going to share after this. Their passions have run high. You're here because people are very passionate, a lot of information, and excited about this issue. We really ask that any signs or standing or applause, I know that it's hard because of how strongly you feel about this, but it will not be conducive to this meeting. It'll make it more difficult for the members to hear, make things go longer, and make it more difficult for everyone to speak. So I would really ask it respectfully that we would just stay silent in this and allow this to go forward as smoothly as possible. Thank you.
I appreciate the committee's invitation to come and share a few thoughts about Common Core. Today I'm speaking for the Civitas Institute, as well as for the many parents, teachers, and concerned citizens who oppose the Common Core standards. On June 2nd, 2010, the North Carolina State Board of Education adopted Common Core standards. The standards emerged out of a national discussion over the decline in the value of a high school diploma and growing concern over America's poor performance on international tests. Simply stated, the standards were put forth as a way to boost academic achievement, equip students with different skill sets, and to aid businesses that needed metrics to make valid comparisons across states. We believe Common Core represents a flawed idea, and that there are strong reasons to oppose Common Core standards. Common Core's one-size-fits-all controlled approach to education makes no sense in a country as vast and diverse as the United States. One of the strengths of American education is its diversity. Common Core's template will work to eliminate that diversity and homogenize learning across schools and grades. We believe Common Core will also work to further politicize education. Because the standards transfer power from the states to Washington, D.C., Common Core centralizes control of education policy making. In so doing, Common Core will subordinate educational interests to political interess and will also upset the healthy system of checks and balances between the states and the federal government. But let's walk away from the politics and examine the arguments for Common Core. Those who support the standards say we need Common Core to improve student achievement and our economic competitiveness. Implicit in such thinking is an assumed linkage between standards and student achievement and standards and economic growth. A review of the research fails to find credible evidence for such linkages. Those are the findings of two respected professors, Tom Lovelace of Harvard and Christopher Tienken of Seton Hall University. In a 2012 report, Lovelace attempts to predict the impact of Common Core on student achievement. He concluded that standards don't really matter much. He found that from 2003 to 2009, states with terrific standards raised their NAEP scores by the same amount as states with bad standards. In a 2011 article, Professor Christopher Tienken cited multiple studies that found no evidence for a link between national standards, performance on international tests, and how an economy performs. It's not just faulty arguments that give us pause. Common Core standards also violate a fundamental principle of our Constitution, federalism. In a recent publication, Robert Scott, the former Education Commissioner of Texas, commented on how Common Core changes the fundamental relationship between the states and the federal government. Scott writes, by signing on to national standards and the assessments that will accompany them, participating states have ceded their autonomy to design and oversee the implementation of their own standards and tests. The implications of ceding this authority, this autonomy, are varied. Not only do some states risk sacrificing high-quality standards for national standards that may be less rigorous, but all states are sacrificing their ability to inform what students learn. In closing, let me say we support high academic standards. We believe, however, that North Carolina should develop and administer those standards. Common Core standards generate negatives that far outweigh any perceived benefits. The standards are untested, controversial, shift control of what is taught in the classroom away from parents, local communities, and the states. They also lack validity and consistent rigor. They stand in opposition to constitutional principles and work to limit parental influence. They also come with too many important and yet unanswered questions. These include, why have Common Core standards not been pilot tested? How will Common Core standards affect students, teachers, and schools? How much will Common Core cost to implement in North Carolina? And who will bear those costs? In the absence of evidence for a link between standards and economic growth, what are the reasons for maintaining Common Core standards? We know members of the committee are here to help answer those questions. The uncertainty argues for pause. It is yet more evidence why we cannot support the standards. We can support, however, a transparent process that corrects the current problems through a full review of all academic standards and a process that is committed to ensuring that state standards are North Carolina-centric and the highest possible. Considering all the evidence, we believe that this is the best option to move forward, and we urge lawmakers to give it every consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luebke. I appreciate your words today coming and also the efforts you've made forward to help us find solutions to the challenges we have here in education. We now have Mr. Gary Salamido from the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. Please come up and please address the crowd with your name, position, and 5 minutes, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I am Gary Salamido, Vice President of Government Affairs for the North Carolina Chamber. The North Carolina Chamber serves as the voice for the North Carolina business community, representing more than 35,000 members who employ over 1.2 million North Carolinians. I want to thank the committee for its attention on an issue that is critical to North Carolina employers. In March of last year, the organized business community launched their long-term vision to support our state's future as a globally competitive economic force. North Carolina Vision 2030 focuses on 4 key areas where our state must strive for excellence, the first of which is education and talent supply. North Carolina Vision 2030 states that in working to be the most competitive place to do and work and find a job in the world, North Carolina must provide support and professional development for teachers as they implement higher educational standards for our students who are our future workforce. Today's employers are ever more aware of the need for strong, rigorous standards that fuel quality education at all levels to ensure that North Carolina students are prepared for the 21st century jobs market. To secure our state's future as a leader in the modern economy, North Carolina must prepare our children to succeed not only in the classroom, but in any community in which they choose to move and live. With high levels of learning, our dedicated educators are preparing each student with real-world skills and information that can be applied to the workforces of today and tomorrow. Their efforts must ensure that North Carolina students are equipped with the knowledge and skills to compete for, acquire, and succeed in the highly skilled, high-wage jobs that will exist here and nationally, and that North Carolina is at a competitive advantage to attract the high-quality jobs of today and tomorrow. North Carolina continues to raise the bar to prepare students to succeed. Whether they go on to post-secondary education or enter the workforce after graduation, businesses looking to hire those students remain adamant that higher standards are crucial to achieving the most competent, competitive workforce in the region, in the nation, and in the world. To support our students and educators, the North Carolina Chamber is currently leading a broad-based coalition of more than 60 private and public organizations known as HIRE, H-I-R-E, Standards North Carolina. The statewide support for higher standards is evidenced by the growing participation in this coalition and the steadfast support of prominent North Carolina businesses and numerous education organizations. In addition to the many individual businesses ranging in size and industry, local chambers of commerce from across the state have also lent their support and local community networks to the coalition's efforts. As other states work to raise their education standards, North Carolina must maintain a high bar in math and English and measure its progress. These standards, through these standards, our state must foster innovation in the classroom, allow flexibility when it comes to the implementation, and effectively evaluate outcomes without overburdening our teachers or distracting them from their overarching purpose, preparing every student for success. In North Carolina, we have a skills gap. Our innovation is outpacing the skills of our citizens who are filling real local jobs in critical industries like manufacturing, agriculture, and technology. It is critical that we move forward with and build upon these higher standards in order to provide our students a strong, world-class education that prepares them for life and the workforce, as well as providing certainty and predictability for businesses seeking talent throughout the state. Not doing so will put North Carolina at a competitive disadvantage against our neighboring states and the rest of the nation. Our economy and our businesses will suffer as job creators look to grow, attract, and retrain the skilled workers for the jobs of today and tomorrow. The Higher Standards Coalition and the North Carolina Chamber are committed to ongoing dialogue as North Carolina continues to elevate the education standards in our state. Employers want more than to simply keep up. They want North Carolina students, teachers, and schools to lead the way. We believe it's a shared vision for education in our state, and working together, we believe that we can achieve it. Thank you, committee members, Mr. Chairman, for this time today. We appreciate your attention to this critically important jobs issue for North Carolina, and we look forward to working with you to make sure that higher standards are there for our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Salamido. We appreciate your words as well, as an open and honest debate is in our system of government the way that we accomplish the best good for the people of North Carolina.